what's going on. We see, the multitude showing up, and we see sales being made and people revved up. I mean, if you ever wondered about being at the right time and at the right place, the right time, well, you better believe you are. With so much excitement going on, there are plenty of people out there that are seemingly stuck where they are, and some of them are a little frustrated. They want a piece of this pie. They see everybody running, and they want to run, and they want to be successful, and there are plenty of them reaching out for advice, that's for sure. Like so many of you, I hear from people almost every single day. Sometimes I can help them by just, kind of throwing out a strategy they might try to shake things up. Sometimes I can help them by reminding them that they absolutely have the power to succeed. But most of the time, I'm reminding them of the need for a mentor. And most of the time, they don't have one for lots of different reasons. But you know what? None of the reasons they give me are good enough excuses. So when I set out to explain what a mentor is, and frankly, what a mentor isn't, I realized that most people don't have a clue about what to expect out of a mentor, and they can't see the value of a mentor because of it. You know what happens in life when we get frustrated, especially when we're frustrated with someone else? That frustration usually stems from something we really can't change. We have expectations of somebody that they're never going to be able to give us, and so we get stuck with frustration. It's plain and simple. But even though, we can easily place blame on someone else for why we're frustrated, there's no room for that in business. We need to stop the unrealistic expectations. And when we do, you know what? Our frustration has no place. So these multiple conversations that I've had with people recently, people just like you and me, have inspired the message today entitled Mentoring Misunderstood. So let's start at the beginning, right? What's the definition of a mentor? Well, chances are in the business world, or our world, if you will, if I opened up the lines right now and I said, okay, who's frustrated? I want to hear from you. And I ask you what mentoring means, what it looks like, I'd hear all kinds of answers to that question. But the definition of mentoring is simple. It means an experienced and trusted advisor. That's what it means as a noun. As a verb, it means advise or train. By definition alone, there isn't anybody on the planet that should ever overlook the importance of having an experienced one in their business, or frankly, anywhere else in their lives. I'm a woman of faith. There's no mistake in that. There never will be. It's kind of out there, and you know it. My faith isn't what I do. My faith is who I am. So my faith encompasses every single part of me. It's the center and the core of me. So principles for my life, for love, for children, for friendships, and for my business are all managed, if you will, in the same way, using the same principles. You may not be aware of this, but every single principle that you need to succeed in your business can easily be found in the Bible, or what I otherwise sometimes refer to as my instruction manual. So for me, in all the areas that matter in my life, I turn to my trusted and experienced advisor. I've been preparing for a session that I'm going to be rolling out pretty soon, and the focus is actually looking at the ministry of Christ and comparing that to what we do for a living, that networking. How do you find the good people, and how do you keep the good people? And believe it or not, there's so much to learn by the example set in terms of setting up your team, building your business, and I hope you guys will tune in when we roll it out. But the purpose of this message today, or for the purpose of it, we're going to be focusing on that mentoring part. You see, even though I can find all the answers for everything I need to succeed in every area of my life from the ultimate experienced advisor, even he won't do the work for me. I have to do it myself. And that's part of that most people are having trouble with. Rest assured, if Christ himself won't be doing the work for me, even though he absolutely could, why would we ever expect somebody else, our mentor in this case, to be doing the work for us either? The definition I shared is very simple. It begins with the word experienced. If we find our way to an experienced one, someone who's already been down the road before us, they've already been beaten up, in every way you can be beaten up, they already know they've been down the road, and they understand what we're going through. That, frankly, friends, is something to treasure, not abuse. That's something to value and not disrespect. To have a mentor that's experienced is a gift, but it's not a given. As in the case with any gift, we need to do what we can to hold it in high regard. So finding the experienced one willing to mentor is the very first step. But after that, the definition says trusted advisor. Once you make it a priority to identify a mentor, an experienced one, then you have to trust them and the advice they give to you, even if you don't want to do it, and even if you think it doesn't make sense. Let's not forget, they've already been down the road. So you don't have to want to do it, and you don't have to think it makes sense. They've already proven that it makes sense. So you have to trust them and actually take their advice. If you have someone experienced and willing, and they attempt to teach and guide you, advising you on the steps you need to take in order for you to get where you say you want to go, and you aren't teachable, or you're not willing to trust their advice, you know what? You're not only wasting their time, you're wasting your time too. There isn't a mentor on the planet, beginning with Christ and ending with you and me, that will continue to mentor an unwilling student. And it's not wrong of them to walk away until the student is willing. There isn't a mentor on the planet, beginning with Christ and ending with you and me, that will be willing to drag you to success. It doesn't work that way. There isn't a mentor on the planet, beginning with Christ and ending with you and me, that will be willing to get behind you and push you to where you say you want to go. You have to take all the steps for your own success, and you have to follow the advice of the trusted ones. And if you can't do that, you know what? You're not ready for success. So you can toss the frustration and stop the whining, because you aren't there because you're not ready. So for every area of your life, a mentor has value beyond anything we could even begin to describe with words. From your relationships to your parenting to your business. Imagine what any of those areas of your life would look like if there was never anyone experienced that walked ahead of us, right? Nobody experienced or trusted for us to mirror. Nobody trustworthy at all. No advisor. I mean, we'd be flopping around forever if we never had an example to follow. Mentoring is vital to you, and it's vital to me, and it's time for all to understand what it looks like. But you know what? Maybe it's also important to look at what it doesn't look like. Again, when I hear from folks complaining about not having leadership, and I inquire about their mentor and what that means to them, it's very clear to me that they're making excuses for not succeeding. The same way, frankly, lots of Christians make excuses for why they aren't growing. If you want to succeed, find a mentor, trust the mentor, take their advice, and stop complaining. Give them the respect they deserve. And if for some reason you can or you won't lean on them, examine yourself first to see if you're a willing student. It's not always the one ahead of you that's dropping the mentoring ball. Sometimes it comes down to your understanding of what a mentor really looks like. Now, so a few words for those mentors. We don't just become mentors because we've been around for a while. It's not like I can say, well, I'm a great mentor because I'm 60. You don't become a good mentor just because you've been around, right? And we don't become mentors because, we've been around the block a few times. A lot of people become mentors, been in the business forever, and they're still not mentors, right? We become mentors by putting the same kind of work, by being good students, by trusting the advice of another, by putting in the work just like we're expecting the other people to do. We got to do it first, and we got to never stop doing it. So if you haven't grown yourself to that level, and that doesn't mean, by the way, that you've got to be a 6A million to be that. This is a character thing. It's not a rank thing, right? So if you haven't grown yourself to that level, if you haven't grown yourself to understand what to expect of other people, then don't expect other people to follow you or to consider you a trusted advisor if you haven't developed that side of your character yet. It doesn't just happen because you've been around, and it doesn't just happen because you have rank. Be sure to put the work into you, and be sure that you are teachable and that you never stop being teachable. Again, you want to look at the most successful people on the planet, people that, the Bill Gates kind of people in the world, they remain teachable every day of their lives. Be sure you have a character that's worthy of trust. And that's where we get into all the, self-improvement stuff, right? We've got to be sure that we're of good character, strong character that doesn't demand trust, but we've earned the trust, right? So we've got to be worthy of it. Be willing to lead and to train, or to identify training for your people if you're not the one to train. And once you work on you in all these areas, then you're a mentor, then you're an experienced one, and you can be considered a trusted advisor. But don't fall into the trap of convincing yourself that you can drag somebody to success or push them to success. Oh my goodness. I can't tell you how much time I wasted in the early part of this business. I'd never been in this business. And I've shared with you guys before that in my world, I would bring people, yes, self-employed people onto my team, but if they didn't cut it, I just got rid of them, right? In this business, once they're in your team, they're in your team. You cannot drag somebody to success. You cannot push them to success. That's not your role, and it's never how it works. If somebody is pointing fingers and questioning your leadership, first of all, look at yourself, right? And if you and your mentor find yourself to be in a good place, in other words, you're being a trustworthy one, you're experienced one, you're doing what you should be doing, that's the first thing that you look at. And if you can consider those things in good order, move on. Holding somebody's hand to success is not going to work. And folks, if you're whining because you don't have leadership, that's not what that mentor's supposed to do. You got to get up. If Christ expects me to do my work, then surely you've got to understand that you've got to do your own work towards success. You know, again, we can't force somebody to see us as an experienced one, and we can't force ourselves, other people to trust us. There are only two things that we actually have control over, just like the weather on this new day, right? We have, number one, to make sure that we're worthy mentors, to continue to put the work in, to continue to gain experience and to be the trusted ones, right? And number two, make sure you work only with the student that's willing to trust and follow and respect. You know, when Jesus put together his power team, you know, he didn't work with everybody that got on board. You know, there were thousands of people that began to follow when he started teaching, right? He didn't work with everybody. He worked with 12 that he handpicked, and those 12 ate every word he had to speak. They clung to it. They were teachable. They were loyal. They respected him. You know, he just worked with them. He worked with the teachable ones, in other words. He didn't stop and say, okay, well, I'm going to go out and play with 12,000. He didn't do that. He worked with his core group, and he was their mentor. He worked with those that didn't question his motives or his character. They respected him. They were teachable. And there's no doubt he is a worthy and respected advisor. You know, once he had put in the time to his team, he did the training, right? He sent them out. He didn't drag them to success. He didn't push them. He didn't follow them around saying, are you still doing it, right? He mentored them to success. And the size of his team is immeasurable because of it. Mentoring is priceless, and mentoring is a necessity in every single area of your life. It happens naturally for most people, you know, in their relationships, for instance. You know, well, most of us would have a friend, and if we hit a bump in the road in a relationship, we go there and we talk to them. And certainly with children, you know, how many times have you, as a parent, gone to somebody saying, man, did you ever struggle with this? And we have somebody that's been down the road before us, and even we see that in our church. But the mentoring process in the business takes an understanding of mentoring and a willingness to be a good student, not just so that you can succeed. You know, that's not all that it is, right? But you will succeed. It's not that you can't. It's going to happen if you can follow these things. But it's also so that you can learn to be a good mentor too. You see, unless we understand that we need to build a leadership team, unless we can step up in that way, we will never build a massive business, no more than Christ would have, right? Mentoring, again, as a reminder, it's an experienced and trusted advisor. It means to advise or to train, not to drag, pull, beat somebody into submission. So do you have a mentor? You know, that's the first question. If you don't, guys, it's not necessarily going to be somebody direct to you. Find a mentor in your life. Sometimes it's not even anybody in our business, although it really, really helps if they are. But, you know, you need to find a mentor, and then you need to say, am I a willing student? You know, somebody tells you as a mentor, especially if they're in our business, you need to go do X, Y, and Z. If you're being a good student, you're not going to question it. You're just going to go do it because you've said you want to succeed. You know, if that's the first place you need to start. And then you need to look at, am I a mentor? Have you put the work into yourself to become what other people need? You know, are you knocking through the business and nobody's following you? Well, first of all, again, you've got to be sure you're worthy of being followed. Are you setting the example? Are you considered to be the experienced one? And if not, that's a good place for you to start. Successful people never stop striving to be the best that they can possibly be every single day of their lives. And successful people never quit learning. So I hope this has helped you to better understand mentoring, and that you'll think twice before, if you're inclined to be frustrated and you're like, I don't have anybody to help me and all that kind of stuff that I hear. If you're inclined to blame somebody else for not being the kind of leader you need, then you need to stop and think about it. And ask yourself, am I teachable? Am I trainable? Am I trusting, my advisor and doing what they say? Strive to be the best every single day you live and breathe. I want you guys to go ponder that really long and hard. I would imagine you're probably going to listen to it a couple times on the replay, because this one probably stepped on lots of toes. Now you guys go make it a great day. I'll see you at the top, and I'll see you next week. You guys be blessed. Take care. Bye-bye.